Hello, my name is Rob Renner, and I'm a member of the Choose Green project team. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to the other team members that you're going to be hearing from today. Since we've already had a formal introduction, I'll just use our names. So that includes Nancy Blywise, Sri Ramchari, Felicia Smith, Ellen Wild, and Damon Williams. Now, the way we have the session structured today is I'll be providing an overview of our project in charge, and then you're going to get a chance to hear from Sri Ram, who will take you through an actual product demo for the first of two recommendations we're going to be making today. You'll also hear from Felicia, who will share the second of those two proposals. Nancy will explain all the research and findings that went into those two recommendations. Ellen will explain what all of you can do to help implement those recommendations. And finally, Damon will provide a summary and facilitate a Q&A session. So I'd like to begin by stating that we are here today to discuss something that may be the challenge of our time, and that is saving our planet for future generations. Now, the good news is we all work for a university we can be very proud of in that regard. You see, Emory is a national leader in the area of sustainability. We've received a gold star rating from the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education and dozens of rewards and recognition for our sustainability initiatives. In fact, we are gathered today in one of 31 buildings on campus that meet LEED certification requirements. And this particular facility is gold certified. Also, 54% of our campus grounds have been designated as protected green space. More than half of all of the waste that is produced at Emory is either recycled or composted. And thanks to our one-of-a-kind water hub, we are able to recycle enough wastewater to supply up to 40% of our water use needs. Now, these are just a few of many significant accomplishments that reveal a very strong and senior-level commitment to sustainability for more than the last decade. But I also have a confession to make. As an individual, I may not be doing all that I can personally to support this cause. See, I live in northern Gwinnett County, and 5 days a week, I get into a gas-powered vehicle and I travel 75 miles round trip to come to work and return home. Now, it's not because I don't have any other option. There are carpools, van pools, shuttle services from Gwinnett. I could telecommute more often than I currently do, or I could even consider trading my gas-powered car for an alternative fuel vehicle. But because of my decision and habits, there are additional toxins and pollutants being placed into the atmosphere each day. Now, the truth is, I'm not alone. You see, we all make trade-off decisions in our daily lives that affect sustainability. In addition to commuting alternatives, we also make decisions about the equipment that we order. Do we order brand new equipment or look at redeploying existing assets? If we have a new employee beginning work, do we have that person order their own desktop printer, or perhaps encourage them to use any of the hundreds of network printers we have on campus? If we're planning an event, do we ensure that it's a sustainable event with an approved food vendor? And if we're conducting meetings, interviews, or training, do we utilize the technology solutions that are available with video conferencing, teleconferencing, rather than requiring in-person attendance and traditional methods of delivery? And I'll even use today's session as an example of that. You're about to see a presentation that's being displayed on two large video screens, large enough for everyone in the room to see. This is digital content that we could email to each one of you and store on the ETL website for future reference. And yet the program requires that we produce paper copies of our slides and our executive summary for each one of you. And each of the other project teams has been asked to do the same. Now, this is all to produce something for which we had a suitable and more sustainable alternative. And I share all of this to illustrate that despite our many proud accomplishments, there is still a lot more that we could do if we could engage the entire Emory community in making sustainable choices in their daily lives. And that leads to our project charge. What our team has been asked to do is develop a framework for routine decision-making that incorporates the triple bottom line into those considerations. So the triple bottom line is a concept that requires us to ask certain questions. Questions like, how will my decision impact the planet? What are the implications in terms of water use, energy use, or waste in recycling? How will my decision impact people? Now, that could mean students and faculty and staff here on campus. It could mean the local community or neighborhood that we find ourselves in. Or in the case of issues like worker rights or fair trade, we may need to even consider the impact on people in other countries. And finally, how will my decision impact price or the cost to the university? And this goes well beyond the initial purchase price to include things like maintenance cost, replacement cost, end of use value. We may need to even consider things like insurance or financial and legal risk. But if we ask ourselves these questions when we make daily decisions, we can not only ensure that we're meeting the needs of the current generation, but that we're doing so without sacrificing the needs of future generations. And that's ultimately what sustainability is all about. Now, we have 3 goals in mind for this project. The first is to broaden sustainability on campus. In other words, let's get everyone involved. And we'll do that, secondly, by providing them with the tools that they need to incorporate sustainability into everyday decisions. Finally, if we do that well, we can advance the cause of sustainability in higher education by establishing best practices that could be adopted by other institutions. And what you're going to see today are 2 specific product proposals. The first is something that we call a business decision tool. And this is designed for large, complex decisions, like replacing an entire fleet of vehicles or choosing among competing vendors. These are decisions that would typically go through a formal approval process with Ways and Means, IT governance, or possibly the campus services project approval process. The second proposal is something we call a daily decision prompt. And this is really a visual aid or a marketing and branding image that is intended to influence those routine, everyday decisions that we all make around ordering equipment or supplies, conducting meetings or training, or planning events. Now, before I turn it over to Sriram to come up and take you through the product demo, I wanted to revisit the example I shared earlier about my 75-mile daily round-trip commute. I would really like to do something about that and find a more sustainable option. So what Sriram and I did is we used the tool that you're about to see to evaluate my next car purchase. But I think what you will find is that you can use the very same tool and process for any number of decisions here at Emory. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sriram.
Thank you. So that's right. I'm going to help Rob choose a car using the tool. And the same tool can be used if we as an institution have to make a purchase decision where we have to replace 20 cars. It's the same thought process. It's the same thought process where we have to consider certain important things, especially sustainability, when making decisions. So what we have in front of you is a tool which I'm going to walk through the actual demo. The first page of the tool is a landing page which explains what are the expectations, what is the purpose of the tool, how it can be used, and what is an expectation once the user goes through the process. And then after they go through this, then you have Rob's situation. And as I said, this could apply to anybody here at Emory, including replacing fleet of cars. Some basic information is actually gathered here, including your email address, and then the various different choices that you're considering. And in this case, we have considered an electric car versus gas car versus hybrid car. So these are the 3 things that we are considering when we are making a purchasing decision, and we want to take the sustainability into equation. Once you do that, what you have is the next part where you are asked some basic questions. And here we have incorporated the triple bottom line. And the first part of the triple bottom line is the planet. And what you see here is a multi-dimensional matrix where you have specific criteria to consider. And each of those criteria are based on what we have researched through industry best practices. And for each of the criteria, you could decide what is the impact on sustainability, whether it is a positive impact, whether it's a neutral impact, or whether you have a negative impact. And for each of the choices that you're making, you can take into account sustainability. So in this case, for planet, we have various different things into consideration. So some of the features that we have implemented in this tool is, if you have to get some basic information about these criteria, you could hover on them and you would get some basic information. Now, if you want to do some detailed research, you could click on a specific criteria and it will help you go through a decision guide. The project team spent time in building the decision guide for one of these use cases, which is water use. You could take this into account where it has links to the various different practices that we follow here at Emory. It also takes into consideration what are the different industry best practices that you can take into account. So this is an example that the project team had built, and what we recommend is, beyond the prototype, the same the same decision guide can be built for all the other criterias. So once you go through the various aspects of Planet and how it impacts sustainability, then you go to the next aspect of the triple bottom line, which is people. So again, you have the best practices, which includes fair trades, worker rights, and all the things that are important, and the same rules apply here. You could hover on a specific item, or if you need more information, you can click on a link which would give you the decision guide on what to consider when you're making decisions where you take sustainability into account. Once you're done with Planet, then you go to the last part of the triple bottom line, which is price. The same rule applies. We have the so here we have the criteria which are important for price that can be taken into sustainability, and then you have the same rules that apply here, where you can click on specific links to get more detailed information. So once you go through this thought process, ask yourself questions. What does your decision mean when it comes to sustainability and how it impacts your bottom line? Then what you get is the sustainability report. This is a multi-matrix report which takes into account the triple bottom line, where all the things that you've considered is displayed in one page. The exact report will be sent as an email to your inbox, and the Office of Sustainability will also have a copy of this data. Now, this data can be used for later purposes if you're doing data mining or if you're doing data analytics to see how much of an impact sustainability had in your day-to-day decision making. So this is, in a nutshell, what we are proposing from a tooling perspective, where you have the triple bottom line and all the different components in one page. Now, you have seen the tool and how it can be used. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is where the tool can get incorporated into existing practices. So the next slide has the three main phases of any big project that we have at Emory. We have a conceptual phase, we have an approval phase, and we have an implementation phase. Now, for example, we have existing processes as we have an IT governance process where we start off with a business case, and then we go through approvals and we go through implementation of IT projects. We also have another existing process where there is capital project approvals, where we have a conceptual phase, an approval phase, and an implementation phase. What we are recommending is the usage of this tool across all three phases of a project. So from a conceptual phase, you will have a plus or minus 50% level of confidence with respect to the analysis that you have done. And then once you go past the conceptual phase, you go to an approval phase where the tool gets used again, where you might have a plus or minus 25% confidence interval with respect to the research that you have done. And then the tool gets used again in the implementation phase, where you have done more analysis, and you might have a plus or minus 10% confidence level with respect to the data that you have gathered and then the analysis that you have done. So with the usage of the tool across the three major phases of a process, you are actually thinking about sustainability as you go through conceptual and approval and implementation. So what I've shown you is the tool in action and how it can be used and where it can be used. Now I'm going to call my colleague who's going to be going through the second product which we have implemented in this project, which is the decision prompt. Felicia.
Thank you. Well, as you've heard, much has been accomplished at Emory in sustainability. Since the 2005 to 2015 strategic plan came out, we have accomplished great milestones. Part of that has come through the Office of Sustainability with great partners on campus like procurement. They're very strict guidelines with procurement with our major vendors like Dell, Staples, or Apple, where we require that they ship everything to us in recyclable material. It can only come, for instance, in styrofoam if there's temperature control that's needed. In addition to that, when they pull up to one of our buildings to run in to deliver something, they need to turn that vehicle off where they're not idling and putting pollutants in the air. Through procurement, we also have rules in place as we negotiate what I'm going to call people contracts, for lack of a better word, where we're getting work staff that we're contracting through another company. We make sure those employees are going to be treated as well as we treat our own employees. Also with capital projects, Sustainability has a seat at the table. They come in before a project is even known, so they're really helping to conceptualize what that project might look like. For major events like Staff Fest, I'll use this year as an example. If you read your email, you're asked to bring your recyclable water bottle yourself. We're not going to hopefully hand out as many water bottles as we normally do. So again, sustainability is at the table for those kind of decisions. And we've also made great strides about at-the-moment decisions. I was at Emory about 2 weeks and had left for my office for a meeting. And when I had turned my light off when I left, I was learning the rules. This was in 2008. And when I got back, I had a reusable water bottle and a t-shirt in my chair, reminding me about sustainability. So I don't know how I got targeted for that in $15.99, but I got it anyway. So we've done a lot of those decisions. So what we're really here to talk about today, you saw the business decision tool. So already lots of processes in place. We've built a tool, hopefully, that will be used for some of those bigger decisions, but there's still decisions that all of us make every day where we can have an impact. Like, how did you decide to get to this meeting today? Did you take the Cliff Shuttle? Did you walk, or did you drive your car? And at different times, I know for me personally, those decisions are very different. If I've got 5 minutes between meetings and I'm going from $15.99 to admin, well, I can't even drive it that fast, but that's a different story. But so we make different decisions at each time, so none of those decisions is right or wrong in every single case. So the next tool for those little decisions that we're going to talk about really is what I'm going to call a daily decision prompt. This is just to put some simple sustainability questions in front of people. This would have to be part of a multifaceted campaign, much like we've seen for Tobacco-Free Emory or the Move More Challenge. Maybe we could just do an email campaign. I don't know. Everyone reads every single email they get in full. So maybe that's all it would take. I'm really joking. We really would need a massive marketing campaign to do something like this. This could be posters really in common areas to skins on laptops and tablets are the most recent thing I've seen where it's a real reminder. It's great advertising for something like that. So the tools that we have talked about today are really meant to be paired up. This daily decision prompt will push people to the sustainability website and other resources that are there. And once they get there, then the tool will help them with more complex decisions. And perhaps when they go through the tool and they get the results of that, they will use that in their business case, either to a chief administrator or a chief business officer. So now that we've talked about these tools, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy to talk about how we decided on these two.
Thank you, Felicia. What I would like to do now is to present, now that you've seen both the daily decision prompt and the business decision tool, how we arrived at this place, why these prototypes created in this particular way. As an academic institution, we have had great recognition for our sustainability programs. So going into this project, we knew that we were going to need a solid foundation that builds on current success. So we did extensive internal and external research, conducting benchmarking, an internal assessment of need, and reviewing the empirical literature on successful outcomes. First, our benchmarking. We're very lucky that living in Atlanta, we are surrounded by industry leaders in sustainability. We interviewed executives at Coca-Cola, Unilever, Ernst & Young, Interface. We talked with executives at nonprofit organizations known for their sustainability and colleagues at peer universities. So what did we learn from this research? First, no one is doing this. There was no best-in-class foundation that we could use for the work that we were doing. Our industry leaders told us that the methods that are primarily used aren't working. Balanced scorecards are leading to strategy. They're yielding strategy, but not necessarily effective action. The reporting kind of practices where people gather information on sometimes upward of 50 to 100 metrics examined across organizations were described as overwhelming and not necessarily leading to good decisions. They had a caution for us as well that when you address the triple bottom line at the approval phase, we tend to give less attention to the planet and the people components of the triple bottom line and focus on price. So they encouraged us to think of decision making as dynamic and unfolding over time. So how did we take this information and turn it into practice? So you have before us both of our prototypes, our daily decision prompt and our business decision tool. And you can see that both of them have all three elements of the triple bottom line. For the business decision tool, we have people, planet, price, but we also have categories and elements within that allow some flexibility. Some may apply to some decisions and not others. So in the example of the fleet of cars or Rob's next car purchase, pollution, energy use could be critically important. Water usage might be less relevant. And finally, we see the business decision tool as capable of being used in a dynamic way throughout the process of decision making, early in concept development, in planning, in approval, and in implementation. Our next research was focusing on Emory's need. We interviewed a broad range of internal stakeholders who also served as testers as we developed our prototypes and gave us great recommendations for modification as we went through the process. They gave us very clear marching orders. They wanted something visual, easy to use, that had direct links to additional information. So our daily decision prompt is very graphic. We're thinking of it as something that can be placed right in front of you to grab your attention. And it also includes a push, if you will, to the online business decision tool. That tool in its survey format is also very visual and easy to use. And it includes direct links to what we call our decision support documents. These documents include definitions if needed, Emory standards, additional scientific information, as well as criteria that can be applied to making the decision as to whether something is good for the planet, neutral, or have a negative impact. Our final area of research was the scientific literature. There is a very large, well-established, multidisciplinary, and international body of research on sustainability. So we looked first at predictors of pro-environmental behavior. Among those, Emory has knowledge and commitment down pat. We have the Piedmont Project, we have disciplinary work on environmental health, we have sustainability in the dorms, and for commitment, we have our sustainability pledge. What we need is attention, something that prompts people to think about sustainability as they begin to make decisions. And overcoming the barrier of difficulty, we need products that are easy to use. The research on effective practice gave us guidance for how we might advance sustainability in higher education. This literature is recommending new methods that are holistic, include quantitative and qualitative information, allow us to make direct comparisons, and are integrated into ongoing processes. So again, looking at our two prototypes, we see that the daily decision prompt is designed to get your attention. It could be printed on mouse pads, it could be on a poster, it can be a screensaver, something right in front of you that prompts you to think green, to choose green when you're making decisions. Both of these prompts have all three elements of the triple bottom line right there as you're making your decision, allowing a more holistic overview of all of the elements of sustainability. Our business decision tool makes direct comparisons across options, And the categories and the elements that were presented to you in the demonstration all came from a review of best practices in the empirical literature. Finally, it's designed to be downloaded and incorporated into proposals, into business cases, into ongoing processes for decision making. So taking this all together, we created prototypes that we hope meet our goal of broadening sustainable decision making across campus by creating something that's visual, easy to use, is grounded in science, and takes a holistic approach to decision making that's dynamic and unfolding over time. Now our colleague Ellen will present implementation.
So our vision for Emory is to be the most innovative university in sustainability. Sustainability is the right thing to do, as you've heard, for the planet, for our community, and for our future generations. Now, Emory has won several awards in sustainability, and that's great. Yet our research has shown that not every member of the Emory community has fully embraced sustainability, like Rob and others. Sorry, Rob. We know there are others out there. We want every staff, faculty, and student to understand how to incorporate sustainability in their decision making, whether they're making a large purchase like a fleet of trucks or simply trying to decide what coffee to buy for the office. We want Emory, the community, to embrace a culture of sustainability. So how do we get to that vision? There are 3 actions that we can commit to today that will get us closer. First, use these tools. We have shown you 2 prototypes, but they can be easily finalized. And once they're finalized, require your staff to use the online tool in developing business cases for medium to large purchases. Incorporate the results of the tool into your standard approval processes. Also, get the daily decision prompt in front of all your staff so that they are reminded when they're at their desk and they're making decisions every day to think about sustainability. The second thing you can do is to support a Choose Green marketing campaign. Support the Office of Sustainability Initiatives in promoting a marketing campaign around sustainability decision making. And third, incorporate sustainability into HR processes. This also includes wrapping it into your new employee orientation. You can use sustainability and incorporate it into your staff performance evaluations. We've identified 3 competencies: problem solving, building trust, and collaboration that have provisions for you to review your staff's commitment to sustainability. These 3 actions, using the tools, supporting a campaign, and incorporating sustainability into HR processes, are actions that all of us can commit to, and hopefully the rest of the Emory leadership support. And by doing so, we can move closer to a full culture of sustainability. I'm now going to hand the floor over to Damon, who will summarize and open up for questions.
Thank you, Ellen. First, I'd like to start off by thanking our sponsor, Bill Dracos, Keenan Howard, and from the Office of Sustainability and Initiatives, and the ETL staff. Wanda, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity. The future of sustainability. As we define sustainability, we think about sustainability being defined as the means of meeting our present users without compromising the needs of the future. I'll say that again. Sustainability can be defined by meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. And I take a moment to ask the room to think about, how are you impacting sustainability in your actions today? As we walk out of the room, will our actions affect today, tomorrow, and our future? I think about in my own daily activities. As a director of diversity, community, and recruitment in the Laney Graduate School, I'm often tasked with traveling and recruiting at more than 50 events a year. Will I get on an airplane for 50 flights? Or are there events that I can actually do some virtue sessions? Those are some larger decision making. Smaller decision making, when I'm creating events for students, will I again use Adobe Connect, Skype, or will I have an event that I will have 50 pizza boxes left over at the end of the event? So these are some of the decisions that we have to make. Our project charge, Choose Green, the team, were charged with creating a scope that institutionalized triple bottom line in 3 areas. People, do we ensure workers' rights? Planet, are we conserving energy? And price, are we spending wisely? Our project goals, you heard from my colleagues earlier. We want to first broaden sustainability across the campus. What better way of broadening sustainability by bringing through 6 different individuals from 6 different sectors of campus to work on a sustainability plan? No better plan. Support effective choices. You heard about our triple bottom line. Our business decision tools that we created are cost effective, convenient, and it's accessible by everyone. It's universal coding. And lastly, advancing sustainability in higher education. Nancy spoke about our peer institutions, Yale, Stanford, and other AAU institutions, that this is not happening at those institutions. So we're setting the status quo. We're going to continue to win all those awards with these decision-making tools that we've created. In closing, I want you all to think about, as we ponder a lifestyle change of sustainability, we know that this is not easy. We know that we need something that's convenient. We know that we need something that's consistent. So as we walk out of the room today and we dispose of our Coca-Cola cans and our bottled waters, I want you to reflect on our business decision tool and our daily decision prompt that's behind me and make the correct decision of how to advance sustainability here at Emory University. We thank you for this opportunity, and we now open the floor for questions.